When it comes to the Brian Walshe case, yesterday I said this was going to be a tricky one, so I'm going to tell you why here in this video. But I'm also going to make a second video because yesterday were the opening statements in the first day of trial, and I want to cover that as well. So bear with me. There will be two videos as I enjoy my coffee this morning. Now I know on its surface, this feels like it could be a slam dunk for the prosecutor. He made some wildly ridiculous and ignorant Google searches that point the blame right at him. Never mind that they were able to use GPS technology to track him to various different locations where CCTV also captured him buying mops and rags and cleaning fluids and a Tyvek suit and a hacksaw and a hatchet and goggles and 13 different kinds of hydrogen peroxide and a whole bunch of baking soda. And then he's Googling things like, can baking soda be used to reduce the smell of a dead body? I know, it feels like a slam dunk. There's also video of him dumping big bags of garbage into dumpsters at various locations around the town. A search of one of those dumpsters found trash bags that contained items that belonged to Anna, like her clothes, her boots, her purse, her vaccine card with her name on it. And all of it matched her DNA, so we know it's hers. There was also items found in the home, like blood and human tissue that was tied back to Anna as well. I get it. It feels like this could be a slam dunk. But here's the problem. During the investigation, the Massachusetts State Police were called in. And I think you know where I'm going. You're going to recognize a whole lot of these names, like Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, David DeCicco, Nicholas Garino, Brian Tully, Connor Keefe. These are all the same people who were involved in the Karen Reed trial. In fact, Michael Proctor was the lead or pretty much one of the primary investigators for a number of cases that are winding their way through the courts right now. Now, we know in the affidavits, and I said this yesterday, that when the police first came to the home, I believe this was David DeCicco, they asked Brian, can we do a cursory search? Can we look around? Do you mind if we do some extractions on your phones and your computers and such? And Brian was like, well, you're going to, yeah, probably. I don't see why not, but you're going to have to call my attorney to get permission. And the attorney gave them limited permission. The attorney basically was like, it can't be anything that's confidential between him and his wife. And, it has to just be some very basic stuff. They extracted everything, right? They extracted everything, all of the location data, all the Google searches, they extracted everything and then used that information to get the search warrants and come back for real. It happens back in July when Brian Walsh's defense attorney, Larry Tipton, files a motion to suppress evidence because we've all learned through the Karen Reed trials 1 and 2 that Michael Proctor is an absolute fucking joke. He's corrupt, he's twisted, he sucks at investigating things. And so naturally you assume if he did that poorly of a job, if he's that disgraceful during the Karen Reed investigation, how badly must he behaved in all of these others? I understand it. It's a really easy way to connect the dots. So Tipton files a motion to suppress all of this evidence because he's basically saying you wouldn't have gotten a search warrant if you hadn't done a beyond basic search originally. So in the beginning, when we gave you a chance to just do a very minimalistic search, you went above and beyond, and everything that you extracted from his phone and his devices gave you all the tips you needed and steered you to all of this evidence. So you didn't have a warrant when you did those original extractions, so therefore everything you got should be suppressed and not be allowed into evidence. And I know there was a moment in July where everyone was kind of holding their breath because the idea, I'm going to sit here and say, I understand that everyone's innocent until proven guilty and everyone deserves their day in court, but this motherfucker needs to be buried underneath the prison. Can we all really feel like, yeah, he did it. He did it. But can you imagine the whole thing getting thrown out? All the evidence getting thrown out on a technicality because these fucking cops can't do their jobs right? Now, luckily, a judge denied the motion, thank goodness, and allowed a lot of this evidence to come in, but the judge did suppress a couple of things. A couple of the things that were what they considered to be outside of the scope, right? The time frame that we're talking about is really the morning of January 1st up until the 8th when Brian Walshe was arrested. That's the time period we're talking about. So the judge said anything prior to that. So the GPS locations of the car, the phones, any of that, all of the text messages, anything that happened on the 30th and the 31st have to be suppressed. I think the police pulled that information because what they were looking for is premeditation. I think they thought if they looked at where he was and the things he was doing and the things he was saying on the 30th and 31st, they may have been able to put together a case of, look, he'd been planning this for days. But that's the stuff that got suppressed. So we think everything's fine and the case is going forward until we get to October. That's when they extracted Michael Proctor's personal cell phone and found 100,000 items in his phone. Now, Proctor had gotten a new phone in February of 2024 and thought he had kind of eliminated all of the old stuff. And his attorney even said he has this new software that deletes everything every 30 days as a cleanup audit on his phone. So his lawyer's like, I doubt very seriously that there's anything on the phone that would be old enough to go back to the Brian Walshe case. Well, guess what? There's all kinds of shit on Michael Proctor's phone, and it took the Commonwealth a really long time to go through it all and figure out what was privileged between Proctor and his attorney and Proctor and his wife and all the stuff that was privileged. And then they went through it, and luckily, again, they were unable to find anything that would further damage his credibility when it comes to the Brian Walshe case. Since Michael Proctor and his text messages are the gift that keeps on giving, I wouldn't be surprised if something pops up in this case where they try really hard to make this seem like Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, and all the boys over at the MSP did a bad job of investigating this and tried somehow to frame Brian Walshe. But then also more recently, Brian Walshe is being held in prison because, by the way, he would probably be there anyway because he was already guilty of an art fraud thing. I'll do that in another video. But then he got stabbed in prison. Somebody took a makeshift shiv and stabbed the guy. Now he was given medical care and he was immediately returned to the prison population. So it wasn't medically a serious stabbing, but now his attorney is saying it took a real toll on him. And now we're worried he might not be competent to stand trial. So there's 1,000,001 things that complicate this. Never mind the fact that he has pretty much taken all the chess pieces off the table by admitting he's guilty of illegally disposing her body. If he says, yes, I did dismember her. Yes, I did throw her in trash dumpsters all around town. Yes, I did clean up afterwards. That's why there's all those Google searches. What they're doing is they're daring the prosecution to say, but where's the murder? How did he kill her? When did he kill her? Why would he kill her? How did she die? And where is the body? So this one is tricky, and the prosecution has more lined up against it than we think. It's not exactly a slam dunk. Stay tuned. We're going to keep covering it.